In the UAE, where development is the name of the game, real estate is a big deal. Mention of Dubai brings forth images of its sparkling skyline. Abu Dhabi is gearing up to host more theme parks, and now empty plots are catching the eyes of data center builders around the globe. There's a lot of growth in the UAE, and that means questions about property.
Apartments in Dubai pay back their value through rent faster than any other global city analyzed by UBS.
Abu Dhabi. Today, I would like to share information with you about the launch of not just a single residential complex, but an entire island.
Real estate in Dubai specifically has been on the come up since COVID for the most part. Abu Dhabi is seeing development at a rapid pace. A report from credit rating agency Fitch says Dubai property prices are expected to fall by up to 15%. That trend is set to begin in the second half of 2025 and expected to continue next year. But some experts say that might not be the case. So how do these new changes and developments factor into the real estate market? We're trying to answer that question on today's episode of Business Extra from the National News. I'm your host, Salim As-Saeed.
As it is in every other sector around the world, pricing is always set through supply and demand trends. And the same applies here for the region's real estate.
While some forecasts predict a possible price decline this year, the data tells a more nuanced story. Here are some market insights from Cherif Sleiman, Chief Revenue Officer at Property Finder, digging into what the platform's real-time data reveals about supply trends and where the market might be actually headed.
The geopolitical challenges that we're facing all around the world has created very healthy demand for Dubai real estate, be it people coming to live or people investing. At the moment, our supply and demand trends do not show any signs of massive price corrections. Property Finder data shows that the market remains very active and very healthy, and supply and demand continues to be balanced at the highest levels for the market. Over the past couple of years, we have seen a good amount of supply enter the market for apartments. So at the highest level, we're not really seeing massive oversupply. We're seeing actually a healthy supply that continues to balance the demand. Apartment living continues to be the preferred choice across the entire market here in Dubai, where 78% of the search is actually apartment rental searches. 21% of the rental searches are for studios, but above 30% of the rental searches is for one-bedroom and two-bedroom apartments. What that really means is there is a healthy demand for one-bedroom and two-bedroom apartments, and we've seen the price actually increase. So for one-bedroom apartment rental prices, we've seen a 12% increase from 58K annually to 65K annually. And for two-bedroom apartments, rental prices, we have actually seen an increase of 10% from 88K to about 97K.
I just spoke to Haider Tuaima, Director and Head of Real Estate Research at ValuStrat. Thank you, Haider, for joining Business Extra.
You're welcome.
Can you start off by describing the UAE real estate market over the last few years to where we are now?
We were to describe UAE real estate market since the pandemic, definitely it was a recovery overall for all the Emirates, but Dubai especially, where valuations of properties since the pandemic have, especially in villa space, have doubled, if not tripled in value since then. Apartment market, not so much in terms of growth. Abu Dhabi at a slower rate, Ras Al Khaimah also at a slower rate, but generally it has recovered, and a lot of investors have already started selling those properties that they bought a few years ago, and they're reaping the benefits.
Yeah, it seems, I think recovered is maybe an understatement. It seems like there's been a 60% rise approximately from 2022, seeing high value in the market. What's the outlook for the UAE property market in 2025 and 2026?
Now, in this case, in our point of view and the ValuStrat price index, it will continue to be positive for the year. There will be a more moderated, modest growth. We are not expecting anything negative at all. As this Fitch report may have suggested, I have read the words carefully, and I think they said likely, and this is based on supply, and I cannot really defend what they are saying, but I can defend what I have. As far as we are concerned at ValuStrat, we actually expected a little bit of moderation last year. That did not happen due to the fact that we had limited supply coming in, and our estimate 27,000 units for the whole year. And at the same time, population growth was at record high, the highest in the last 6 years. Now, this quarter in particular saw the highest population growth, with an average number of 1,000 people per day added to Dubai's population. So we have substantial demand coming in. Granted, not all the demand can afford these properties as prices and rents go up, but it's demand nevertheless. And that could perhaps trigger some sort of moderation in price growth and may see some stabilization in some areas for this year. That is basically the gist of it. As far as rents are concerned, we're thinking in 12 months' time, perhaps villa rents will stabilize, apartment rents to continue to increase, if anything, at double rate. And at the moment, we are seeing about 6% growth for villas versus around 12% for apartments. This is true for all of the Emirates, except that in Dubai, it's more amplified. So the increases and the growth is amplified in Dubai, but it's basically the same trend. If you look elsewhere, like in Abu Dhabi, also apartment rents increasing at double rate of villa rents. And so far in Q1, we have seen a reduction in transaction volume, both off-plan and as well as ready transactions. So that is, I guess, a quick overview of what's going on in the real estate market, the residential market.
And that's what I want to ask you next, actually. How does Abu Dhabi compare to Dubai in terms of outlook?
Abu Dhabi is, as I said, it's more toned down in single-digit terms in terms of growth. As far as Abu Dhabi's demand side is concerned, it's more from the domestic market, mainly end users buying homes and local Emirati citizens buying and investing in the market with less international investments coming in. As compared to Dubai, it's majority coming in international, with cash transactions being the majority as compared to mortgage transactions. In Abu Dhabi, it's the other way around, and which is the normal. Basically, in any market, normally you would see the majority of transactions being mortgage-based, which basically tells you that these are basically people who live and earn their income in the country. Otherwise, they cannot get a mortgage. It's the other way in Dubai. So you've got about a third or maybe a quarter in some cases of all transactions being mortgage-based and the rest being cash.
And when it comes to developers, which direction are property developers going? Focusing on developing luxury properties or more affordable housing as it seems to be needed across the UAE?
It depends how you define luxury, but they have to use this word, in my opinion, now, simply because land cost is now higher than it was a few years ago. Construction cost has also gone up. So developers don't have much of a choice other than increasing the price per square foot for an off-plan property, and therefore they have to market it as luxury. Luxury, what is luxury? I mean, it can be in the outskirts of the city, but maybe with a little bit of a high standard of build, that can be called luxury. It could be a tiny apartment, that could be called luxury. So it really depends. You have to dig into their brochures and look at the floor plans and see how they are.
But are most properties coming out as luxury, whether it's due to a price rise in per square footage?
They call it luxury because of the price range, and they try convincing the potential buyers that it is indeed luxury, but it's not necessarily the case for the new developments at the moment. It's just to justify the higher prices at the moment, but it's not necessarily have to be high-end or luxury. It's just becoming a little bit more unaffordable as we go through time, since last year until now. In fact, if you buy off-plan today, it is about 200 dirhams per square foot, more expensive than a property you can walk in, a ready property you can use today or you can rent it today. So you're paying more per square foot, on average 200 dirhams in both Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Ras Al Khaimah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, especially the fact that the label is changing, but the quality might still be considered not luxury, but then just simply due to the price, That's being considered luxury, or it's being advertised as luxury. But then,
Yes.
so I think that speaks to the impact of all of this. Can you talk about what that is on rent prices and living costs for the average person living here?
The rent prices, usually housing costs is around, according to the official statistics from Dubai, is just above 40% of the total household income. And that is increasing up to 50% of the total income, which is creating quite a pressure. And this is if you were to move out from your current property and find a new one. If you're in existing property, then you're basically protected in Dubai, let's say, by the RERA rental calculator, where the landlord cannot just simply increase the rent every year because it depends on a certain range that is being dictated by this index. So that is important. But if you just came to this country or to the city, then of course you can expect that today, your rent today is definitely a double-digit difference higher than it was last year for the same apartment in the same location. That is the case. And therefore, you have to downsize or maybe move to the more in the outskirts, less connected areas. And the majority of people, and I think you can see this and experience it on the roads, would be moving towards the Northern Emirates. So there's an estimated 1.5 million people who are considered residents of Dubai, that cannot live in Dubai, cannot afford to be in Dubai, therefore move to the Northern Emirates. And those who are working would be commuting every morning from the north towards the south. Yeah, so when you move on to the north, even with the same budget, you can get bigger space. So it's not just a question of the amount that you put out for your housing, it's what you get in return and the value for money in the end of the day.
In short, when speaking to people in the UAE, will they be paying more or less for the same type of apartment, do you feel, in the next year or so?
If it's rent and if it's an apartment, then the answer is yes. If you're moving to a new place, then as I mentioned before, that apartment rental increase is double rate of villa rental increase on an annual basis. So that means apartment rents will continue to increase. Of course, this is speaking in very generic terms. Now, there are areas that are expecting new stock to come in all in one go. Of course, that means potential tenants will have more choice. But in generally speaking, it is the apartment rents is what we call the low segment of the market, is the one that is catching up right now in terms of rental increases. And we have seen rents double now since the pandemic. And for apartments, it's almost doubled. For villa rents, it's more than doubled. So if an apartment, let's say, was 30,000 rent, it has become 50 and 60,000 per annum rent. It's the same apartment in the same building in the last 4 years.
Great. Thank you so much, Haider, for your insights. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome anytime.
So what are the market trends now in the whole of the UAE, not just in Dubai? To understand more about that, I'm joined now by Rahman, senior business reporter at The National, who is also closely following the real estate market in the country. Farid, thanks for speaking to us on Business Extra.
Thanks a lot.
So I just spoke to Haider Tuaima, the director and head of real estate research at ValuStrat, and he was saying that as prices are going higher per square footage, square meter, that the definition of a luxury property is being changed just based on price. So it could be an affordable, a typical unit, a property unit, but because of the price, now it's being labeled as luxury. How do you actually define a luxury real estate property?
There could be different definitions for a luxury real estate property. It depends on the kind of amenities that it offers. It also includes the locations where the property is being built. Like some of the locations like in Dubai Marina or Palm Jumeirah are considered as really luxury properties.
And so we're hearing different reports like Fitch ratings that are saying that there is expected to be a correction up to 15% in the second half of this year, up throughout 2026. Others are saying no, that prices are still going up or still headed in the same direction. What has led us to this current state, and which direction do you see things going?
I've been speaking to different developers as well as experts, and everybody is saying that Dubai as well as Abu Dhabi's property market remains strong. Property prices are going to continue to rise across the UAE, whether you take it in Ras Al Khaimah or in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. Yes, it's a fact that there is going to be a lot of supply in the market in the coming months as well as in the coming years. because a lot of developers are launching new projects and there's going to be a huge supply glut in the market. Despite that, but the demand remains very strong. There are a number of reasons why demand is going to remain strong. One is like a lot of people are coming to the UAE to live here because of the strong economic growth, as well as a peaceful atmosphere in the country, as well as a good lifestyle. And also UAE government has launched a number of schemes to attract investors and people to live in the UAE. This includes residency permits for retired, as well as for remote workers, and also expansion of the 10-year golden visa scheme. So all these things are attracting people to come and live in the UAE. And also we should not forget that the UAE's economy has been going very strongly in the last few years. Number one thing is driven by higher oil prices, as well as the government's emphasis on expansion of the non-oil sector growth. It is focusing to diversify the economy away from oil. All these things are supporting the economic growth, as well as supporting the businesses in the UAE to set up their units and expand their businesses.
And where are we seeing the most change, in which segments of the market, whether luxury or affordable type properties?
It's all luxury, I think. Right now, the UAE market is dominated by luxury products, luxury residential schemes. Most of the developers are focusing on luxury market because the prices are going up, and also there is high demand from people to buy luxury property. So that's where demand is really strong. There is not much of affordable property in the market currently. And I've spoken to a few developers, and they are saying that they are planning to launch a few affordable schemes by the end of this year. But at the moment, what we see is that it's all like luxury property that's being sold in the market, and that too at like exorbitant prices.
How do you define the Abu Dhabi property market at the moment and the direction it's going with the Disney theme park upcoming?
Today, we celebrate another thrilling moment, the creation of a spectacular new Disney theme park resort coming to Abu Dhabi.
And other projects that they've been establishing there.
Abu Dhabi property market is really strong at the moment. There are two things that are there. In Abu Dhabi, the supply is very low currently compared to Dubai. And the one fine example is that Aldar launched a project on Yas Island last month, and the entire project was sold on the same day. So you can imagine how strong the demand is in Abu Dhabi currently. And the demand expected to continue to rise in Abu Dhabi, and there are a number of reasons for that. Tourism potential is very strong. There are a lot of tourist attractions on Yas Island specifically, and the Disney theme park is going to come. That means the demand for property is going to remain very strong, and not many developers are launching new projects in Abu Dhabi compared to Dubai. In Dubai, there are like developers are launching projects every day, but in Abu Dhabi, that's not the case. Very few developers, very few select developers are launching projects, namely Aldar is being very active in the market in launching projects in the last few months. And we also had DR, a Dubai developer, that also came into the market and launched a project. And there are a few more small developers that are launching projects. So the demand is very strong in Abu Dhabi, but supply is very low, thus causing prices to increase as well as demand to remain very strong in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's optimistic in terms for the value of the overall UAE real estate market, even if it does mean higher rent prices. So yeah, let's see how that fares moving forward. Farid, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thanks a lot.
That's all for today. Make sure to find us wherever you stream podcasts and tune in every Wednesday for a new episode. Our producer is Yasmin Al-Taji. Our editor is Duat Farid. Our audio engineer is Arthur Edison. And I've been your host, Salim As-Saeed.